we are off in the next news video. And the next news video does have news on CM Punk. Because Fightful Select has given us an update, and PW Mania was nice enough to break down that update from both from both Fightful and Wrestling and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So we will get to that later on in the video, but we got some WWE news to get to, as the reason for Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes taking place at Backlash instead of maybe at SummerSlam or Money in the Bank or somewhere like that. The reason is because WWE is working with the Puerto Rico Tourism Board to pull out all the stops for Backlash this year, which Backlash is set to take place, I believe, on May 7th, I want to say. So it's pretty much less than a month away. And like I mentioned, actually I never mentioned this, but the fact of the matter is, honestly, the plan for this match depends on what their plan for Roman Reigns is going forward. And with the fact that Roman is not going to be featured, at least at this pay-per-view coming up, and maybe the next one, well, actually, he will be at the next one, because I don't think Roman has missed a crown jewel in quite a while. It really depends, though, on how they're going to do the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments. If they're going to do it all in one night, then, God bless them. But if they're going to do it spread out through the course of a couple of weeks and then do the finals that night, like do the semis and the quarterfinals that night, then they would need other matches to be able to occupy some space on the show, and Roman Reigns would likely be a part of it. I don't know if that means that they're going to rely on maybe Matt Riddle and revert back to the one match that we haven't seen, that being Riddle versus... have we seen that? Yeah, we saw it at a pay-per-view last year, I think. Or did we? Why can't I remember if we... Yeah, no. I'm pretty sure we did see Riddle versus Roman last year. Or did we? I can't remember. I know we were supposed to see Randy versus Roman, but we never did. And the only thing from last year that I remember for Riddle was Riddle versus Rollins, because of, well, how good the match was, or how good the rivalry was. But I honestly don't remember if we saw Roman versus Riddle. If we haven't, then I'm sure that will be what we see in Saudi Arabia next month. But either way, the reason is because WWE is working with the Puerto Rico Tourism Board to make Backlash a massive, not just one-night event, but a massive tourist attraction for Puerto Rico. And this is when Primo and Epico should come back as the Los Matadores, because, or as, Primo and Epico, the basically tour guides of Puerto Rico. That would fit, but I don't know if there's a bigger match than having Brock Lesnar actually compete on a secondary show, on a secondary pay-per-view, because I honestly don't remember the last time that Brock competed at a secondary pay-per-view. Because Brock's appearances are usually set aside for Saudi Arabia, they're usually set aside for big pay-per-views. And that's it. Speaking of being set aside, the NXT stars have been appearing on Main Event, but we don't always hear about it. And the fact of the matter is, I think we don't always hear about it because they don't always appear. This week, though, Tyler Bate and Zoe Stark were on Main Event, and were the newest set of WWE of NXT talent. That's the word. They were the newest set of NXT talent to appear on the main roster. Honestly, I think Zoe Stark is among the women on the roster that should be capable of getting called up. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, and I mean, as you guys know, I am a fan of Tyler Bate. As I've been a fan of Tyler Bate for a bit. And, the fact of the matter is, I, um, the fact of the matter is, I would say that Tyler Bate and Zoe Stark are two people that could be getting called up because of the draft, or at least I think WWE should consider calling them up after or through the draft, with Nikki Cross defeating Zoe Stark and Dolph Ziggler defeating Tyler Bate. So to those who may not believe that Dolph Ziggler wins matches, Dolph Ziggler actually does win matches, even if the matches that he wins are on main event. And also, last night or yesterday, we spoke about a potential dream match set to take place at WWE Summerslam, with Gunther and Brock Lesnar being the choice. Being the choice to headline. For SummerSlam, and I spoke about the importance of that match and why Gunther should win the feud, maybe not the match. But there's also the rumor now that WWE is going to try and hold off on Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus until SummerSlam, which that is 100% going to be a dream match, as Trish Stratus has not worked heel in how long? And also, Trish Stratus' last dream match, I guess you could say, was SummerSlam against Charlotte Flair. So the fact that they're gonna have another dream match, it's fitting. It's fitting, and props to WWE for giving Becky Lynch this opportunity. But like I said, I'm gonna break this feud specifically. I'm gonna break it down on Sunday, as we got another long form content video coming, as far as what I would do instead of forcing a news video, and also giving you guys a break from the news content like we have been on Sundays the last couple of weeks. But now we move forward, and we move to the big question, and the big question is the CM Punk news. As Fightful Select has been teasing it for most of the week. But according to reports, there is a belief that CM Punk will return to professional wrestling at some point, as CM Punk has been negotiating in good faith and is willing to work with the Elite or stay away from the Elite, whichever is the common consensus. But Dave Meltzer did explain in an excerpt from the Wrestling Observer Radio found on PW Mania, basically explaining what happened and what transpired to get to the events of where we were, and that is basically that because Adam Page was not disciplined for the promo that caused everything to happen in the first place, and if he was disciplined, then things would have been different, and everything wouldn't have happened. That even if he was just sat down and spoken to, basically, don't do that, you're going to sit out a couple weeks, basically, then the situation would have been a little different, and maybe the entire situation that happened at All Out would not have taken place. And Meltzer does bring up a good point, as this clearly is not being negotiated in good faith, and because if it was in good faith, we would not hear about it. And because we are hearing about it, it's not something that will likely become an angle. It's not something that will likely become something more because because the question is, if Punk does return, personal beefs sell tickets. Personal beefs make money. And as Meltzer does say, I'm just making sure this is Dave Meltzer. Yes, it is Dave Meltzer. But as long as they are talking about it, it tells me that number one, they have no deal to do it. And number two, by doing it publicly, they're not really looking at doing it. They're looking at playing a public relations game over it. Like, basically, I think what he's saying there is they're trying to make one side cave in and make the other side look bad. They're trying to make one side cave in and make the other side look bad. But as Sean Ross Sapp also reported, Punk has expressed a willingness to work in a number of ways, and that Dax Harwood also mentioned that Punk wants to return to professional wrestling. He wants to work. He would be willing to work elsewhere, whether that is Ring of Honor, whether that is New Japan, whether that is AEW, WWE, wherever it is, he would be willing to work there, which, ironically enough, Tony Khan does have a solid relationship with New Japan, and he also has a solid relationship with Ring of Honor, as he, owns the company. So he kind of supposed to have a solid relationship with that company because he owns them. But with that being said, Tony doesn't have to bring back Punk to AEW, but also with the rumor being that AEW is having another show come up, you could have Punk work the secondary show and not be featured on Dynamite, and have the Elite work the other show and be featured on Dynamite. Basically, what I'm saying is you could keep them completely separated 100% of the time, even though, as Meltzer said, they should be working this out. Even though, as Meltzer said, they should be working this out privately and making this happen. But because they're doing it publicly, it seems like they're trying to play the card of, basically, one side will cave in and, yada, yada, yada. But the reality is, if that was going to happen, would it have happened by now? But also the question is Punk even fully healed from his injury to be able to return to the ring? Either way, there's a lot to clean up about this situation and a lot more to talk about this situation, and I will keep you guys up to date on exactly what's going on. With that being said, though, that is it for the news, and I will see you in the next one.